1 team play, if I may, kind of ruined it all, and they got put behind.
And we'll find out whether or not Roccat will have fixed up their early game weaknesses, and whether or not Shook is going to have a bigger impact. We are into picks and bans here. Draven taken away from Freeze again. No real big surprise. Shen, Lee Sin, and Jay. So the Gragas is still up, prioritizing the Lee Sin against Jankos over the likes of Gragas and Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and the Wolves did their homework, because they saw last week that Roccat, when the junglers were pincered, when the junglers were pressured, then Jankos reserved to Lee Sin first pick. So they do this preemptively, so in case Roccat starts threatening junglers right now, Wolves have the option to ban out the second one, and if not, they trade evenly tier 1 for T1, which is honestly a good trade. Other than that, the first ban that really catches my eye here is Shen for Roccat. I really don't want to play that again, because I think Steve lost the matchup Shen into Gnar against Freddy last week too. Or Gnar into Shen, whichever it was. Freddy came on top in both sides of the matchup, so... And this obviously leaves Kalista open, and when Kalista is open, you pick Kalista. Or Sivir, depending on who you are.
That's definitely the case. Sivir also available here. Mr. Rolls ran Sivir last week. It didn't work out. He went 1-5-2. Going to try his hands on Kalista this time around. And we'll see whether or not Roccat can play around that. We know Alistar is up. It appears to be locked in for the Wolves. And a lot of top laners actually still available. However, Youngbuck not had the most success with anything that wasn't either Vladimir or Shen.
Copenhagen Wolves banning out their own Azir to pick up the early Cassiopeia, saying, okay, well, Nuktak and Soren, we have similar champion pools. We don't think the counter pick is as big of a value. We'd rather secure a comfortable champion. Obviously, Nuktak did well last week. Oh no, that was actually Fox. That was a mirror matchup. Nuktak got manhandled by Cassiopeia last week. That's why the Wolves take a page out of that book. And we see the Alistar, and I wonder if Copenhagen Wolves are actually going to play Sivir, because traditionally Sivir is such a poor matchup into Kalista. However, they're so far up tier 1 right now that you almost have to pick that bad matchup, because she brings so much utility for your team.
Well, I'm excited to see Soren back on Cassiopeia. It was one of the champions he carried with in spring very often, made a name for himself. Not played it yet in summer. A lot of picks have come in very rapidly. Gragas, Echo, Rek'Sai, Sivir.
Yeah, let's go over them real quick and explain why they came out. Initially, Roccat picks up Gragas. That immediately tells the Wolves, well, we get Rek'Sai, even trade. Gragas, however, is really good at body slam flash engaging on these immobile mid laners like Cassiopeia, so I like the pick up. I like Echo as well with a lot of chaos and mobility. Roccat are playing an early skirmish comp, which indicates that they're no longer playing passive in the early game, hopefully.
Yeah, the champions don't want to be played passively, but we'll see whether the Roccat feel the same as actual players, but they're up against the Sivir's wave clear and grouping with Alistar and Rek'Sai.
Yeah, Copenhagen Wolves want to hit the mid game as even as possible. Group up, press R, try and get an objective tied out of that. I want to see how Roccat fill out their composition. That Echo is going mid or top. I imagine it's going top. It seems like a bit of a rough matchup against the Cassio if you eat one of the poisons.
We do see Varus now locked in, so Nuktak most likely going to run that Varus bit. With Kalista as the AD carry, they've got the peel and the disengage from Janna and Gragas to round it out. So a little bit of slowdown from that mid lane.
Not sure on the Janna. I see why, because she can keep Kalista alive in these fights. And a movement speed utility. It's the disengage component. Maybe to keep the Rek'Sai away. And yeah, they know that the Wolves tend to go for like these tanky engage champions on Youngbuck. So there I can definitely see the merit or the value of a Janna pick. Reminds me a bit of a TIP, the way they play a lot of carries, and then you have their support player on the Janna just for disengage over in the NA LCS. But I like both drafts so far. Rocket's going for this triple damage bet with a bit of a pokey middle laner in Varus, and then Copenhagen Wolves look to run out maybe a pretty older type of style, a double tank composition with a tanky support like Alistar, and only 2 threats. That's very important to watch.
So we'll see whether or not Copenhagen Wolves' 2 threats can actually work. Now Maokai was locked in, Youngbuck's most played champion in summer. And for Roccat, this is a completely different team composition that we're seeing. We'll have to see if they can execute it.
Yeah, as the game progresses, the goal for Roccat what they want to do, and what you want to do in any triple threat composition is you want to trade one of your carries for a carry on the other team. Because if you take down the Cassiopeia and you just pound her and you just immediately destroy her, and you maybe sacrifice your Echo in the process, then suddenly you're playing the rest of the match with 2 threats against 1, and then Freeze is under so much pressure. So that's definitely the angle Roccat want to take. However, they have to get through that defensive line. Rek'Sai, Maokai, Alistar, a lot of peel.
And a lot of peel indeed for the Copenhagen Wolves. We'll see how they handle themselves. Both of these teams 2 and 6 in the bottom half of the table. A lot of pressure on their shoulders.
At number 9 here for Roccat and the Copenhagen Wolves. Hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports. Will Roccat or Copenhagen Wolves pick up their 3rd victory in the first half of the split?
Yeah, hashtag ROC win, hashtag CW win. Steve indeed, he's facing that Maokai, and that's what I want to see how efficient is Maokai still in the current meta over in Europe? Because his win rate is deep below the 50% mark. Obviously, that doesn't tell the entire story, because it is a champion that usually top laners go to when they're a little uncomfortable. It's a staple pick that always works, so people with a Xiao champion pool are more likely to end up playing Maokai. Then the likes of Huni, then all those carry top like for the Wamne, they don't have to resort to that champion anymore, not so much.
60% pick ban rate, Crepo. 10 bans, as you mentioned, 5 wins, 9 losses. Young Buck, this will be the 4th time that he's playing the champion in their 9 respective games.
He's going for that rank 5 mastery. That's something you can do. If you get that rank 5 mastery, you unlock a new emote, Control 6. And then you can taunt your enemies when you stand on their corpse and say you just got beaten by a master tree. But not quite yet there.
Not quite. And we'll need to see if he's logged the hours. Young Buck, of course, going to be trying to put on a show. Copenhagen Wolves had a little bit of difficulties this week. And my eyes are going to be on Shook, for sure. We've not seen him in several months. Got his hands on Rek'Sai. Has the theoretical ability to try and maybe punish this Varus.
Ooh, interesting. They're going for the stop. So Janicus and not doing the double golems. Alright, this indicates that they want to see if they can use their double range advantage to punish. Unlimited freeze as hard as they can. Let's see if they actually end up pushing this lane too much. Very interesting laning phase, because Alistair Silver get massively outranged. There's no engage potential yet. And you want the lane to push back, so you want to eat auto attacks to aggro the creeps right there. That's what Unlimited wants to do. He wants those creeps to attack the Janna, so his creeps attack the enemy creeps, and then the lane auto pushes. So in the future you lose as little as you can, and yeah, obviously starting heal on Alistair, so but it'll take until level 3 before he has that combo.
Oh, a lot of safety then for Roccat, as we do see Nukeduck trading with Soren in the middle lane, burning through his mana. Let's get that Hail of Arrows down.
Now let's take a look. This lane is obviously going to slowly push in the bottom lane, so we don't have to watch that anymore. A lot of trading possible in the mid lane if Soren connects that poison. If he misses, however, he can get punished really hard by Nukeduck. Nukeduck usually stays back a little bit in his lanes, doesn't put the most pressure.
And last week Nukeduck looked really out of sorts. Played a lot of Azir. Ended up losing a matchup to Cassia as he was playing Victor, if memory serves. Just there was so much expectation on Nukeduck's shoulders all year long. Not really found his groove. Let's see if this Varus works in his favor.
The Tremor Sense. Super standard pathing from both junglers, and I was about to make the point that neither team knew where the enemy jungler started. Well, in retrospect now, obviously they do. The fight for the Skull Crab.
Jankos on this Gragas does have his double buffs picked up. Shook has left that blue buff.
But Soren is pushing, so Shook can actually aggressively invade. That's the staple. If your mid lane is pushing, then your jungler can invade.
Well, let's see. Jankos, he gets caught out, knocked up now by Shook, is on the retreat. Has got a pretty good KDA versus the season average. He's going to defend that, as he just needs to body slam away.
This is a good read from Shook because he knows the pathing Jankos took. He knows that Jankos' camps on the right side are still down. So the only possibility for Jankos to still get experience in his jungle is to do that wolf camp. Shook just waits there to see if he moves out or not. And he always has Soren the ability to move first. So Soren can always get there first. So good move, puts Jankos on the back foot. And that shuts down a lot of his aggression in the early game.
So let's see if Jankos can find his rhythm again. Also, one of the most touted junglers that's not finding real good footing. We just caught a brief glimpse there of Steve and Young Buck trading back and forth, as Unlimited's burned through almost his entire mana pool already. Spell shield for freeze, but yeah, even CS in the
more
top
minions.
lane, even middle, even bottom, but look at Mr. Rolls and as you mentioned, wave pushing towards them as well.
Yeah, and this is how these sustain situations pan out. Initially you will get roughly even CS, but you still have the wave control advantages on Rolls' side. He can push his back if he wants, or he can put the freeze on freeze and make Unlimited run out of mana. And once he drops below that 150 mana mark, and he has to expend heals, he can no longer safely engage. So he doesn't have mana for Pulverize and Headbutt at the moment, so he only has one of them. That limits the gank potential for the Wolves, which makes it then again easier for Roccat to poke rather, because they're not on a dead, which in turn makes Unlimited make him use his heal more. So it's a bit of a snowball effect. So Alistair definitely wants to stay above that 150 mana mark.
So small advantages here for Roccat. but surely moving into their favor. We touched on how Roccat are traditionally down in lane swaps. They weren't forced into that scenario.
The Wolves are down.
Seem to be in their ways, and we'll need to see how the Wolves can handle themselves. Let's be fair, both of these teams are down in most scenarios when you're 2 and 6.
That's true. Statistically speaking.
Exactly.
And this win is very important for either team because it allows them to catch up, and they all have that number 4 position in mind. Neither of these teams want to challenge the top 3 just yet, but they want to get as close to that 4th place position as they can. However, while Roccat is being passive, their Echo is even farming CS in the top lane, and that's good. If Steve can scale, get some CDR, get some damage, get that Omicron, he can look to really assassinate the likes of Sivir and Cassia in these fights, and then just chrono break back out.
A lot of pressure on Steve's shoulders. We've got a lot of fan support since he's joined the league, but we've not necessarily seen him carry all too much. Vander and Mr. Rawls, they've caught Freeze out. Spell Shield will stop. Summon a heal used, and Freeze gets away alive.
Really like that tornado from Vander because it telegraphs the entire situation. Freeze will have to Spell Shield it. However, Nuketug's getting roamed on.
Oh, he's going to flash away from the petrifying gaze, but he can't get away from the knock-up. The poison in the fangs, and first blood to Soren.
Fantastic gang by Shook there. He knows even if Nuketug flashes out, he can just flash knock up right after. Soren doing the right thing. Connecting ulti is all he needed. Not a stun, just a slow was enough. But Jankos for the return gank.
This is the reply. Young Buck's gonna get caught out. Keaton barrel. Steve's going in. There goes the body slam, and this should be an easy kill. Steve secures it.
Little cool trick by Jankos. Usually when you approach a Maokai and use your offensive ability, he will try to dodge it with Twisted Advance. Jankos walks in and out. He says, okay, Young Buck, just use your Twisted Advance, and then he body slams from out of the cast range of Twisted Advance. So then Young Buck has a harder time to dodge that damage, can't close the distance, and eventually good gank, because this is important. Really important to snowball the Echo, because Cassiopeia is the least mobile member in Copenhagen Wolves. No flash right now, so they can return gank her later. Jankos still has his flash, so body slam flash into ulti later can shut down and make that even for Roccat. A lot of possibilities still.
So 1-1 in kills, Crepo. We did see Shook in his first game of summer back on the LCS stage, helping out Soren, one of the players who's also needed to step up for the Wolves. Freeze has put on solid performances most of the split. Soren again, a little bit hit and miss. Maybe this extra assistance early on can help him carry on one of his signature champions.
A couple item disparities in the bot lane. BF Sword into Pickaxe right now, even though the CS is roughly even. However, Freeze survived long enough to almost hit level 6. This is what they need. They just want to go even. And then they can start grouping up for that dragon. So I really wonder if any of these teams are going to use their teleports. Neither Steve or Youngbuck have been excellent at making plays with teleports. Often they TP in and it's so telegraphed that the enemy just walks away. They seem a little hesitant on using them. Both are up though, so a lot of potential plays in here.
Time is ticking for it to actually happen. We do see Jankos with his ultimate available and that flash you mentioned. He's been hanging out in this pink
but they know he's there.
bush ward.
They're pinging right now because he passed that pink ward on his right. That's crucial. And now Soren will have to do his best application for an Oscar because he wants to keep Jankos there as long as he can while still playing as if he doesn't know for sure that Jankos is there. He wants to step up forward and say, okay, Jankos, you can gank me. Oh, no, I just happened to walk backwards a little bit. Giving away his time. Jankos is still in that rush. Top lanes are trading.
Well, they are going back and forth. Steve working towards that Morella Nomicon. And we see Youngbuck, the makings of that Catalyst to protect, so they're continuing to trade. Steve is going to throw out the Time Wander. Youngbuck forced to flash away. Steve is looking for more. He's got the phase dive and Youngbuck's low. Flash forward. Time Wander comes back for the stylish finish.
Cool guys, don't look at exploding Maokais. He walks away fully on style, and here we go in the middle lane.
And Soren's acting gig has not paid off. Gagas comes in, but he does not land the body slam. Knocks away Soren. Jankos should be able to finish this off. One more barrel slap as Shook actually replies onto Steve up top. Another 1-for-1, but it was Youngbuck that adds a kill credit to Roccat.
Oh, that looked almost ugly. Jankos tried to do the body slam flash, but he hit a minion that was very close to him, so it didn't carry over that damage. And here we see how Shook came in the top lane and finished the kill. Steve, you got the kill. Take it and leave. Don't stay around. Shook says thank you very much. He stops the speed up, takes him down.
So, well played by Shook, 1-0-1. And we see Roccat with a kill advantage. They've secured 3 times as many kills than they have in the previous week.
Trevor, they're slightly up at the 10-minute mark.
Oh, that's not a good sign if you're a Roccat fan.
History tends to repeat itself. Let's see if it does indeed. Let's see if Spelzy, our stat guy, is actually right in his approach.
So just to remind everybody, in the games that Roccat have played, when they're slightly ahead at 10 minutes, they actually end up losing, and when they're slightly behind, they end up winning. We'll see if this pays off. We did catch a brief glimpse of Nukeduck and his Goro build with those 4 weapons. Steve and Jankos turn their attention onto Youngbuck. He's going to throw down that Vengeful Maelstrom, but I think it's just a matter of time before he gets caught out. Body slam connects. Time Winder once more, and Steve's 3-1.
If you get caught once, the amount of slows and speed ups on the Echo Gragas is just too big. Barrel slows, Echo speeds himself up. Body slam to catch up. Copenhagen Wolves, they sacrifice a tree. They gain himself a dragon.
So fair trade, if you ask me. For the Copenhagen Wolves, they've only secured 3 first dragons out of the previous 8 games. So that's a decent enough start for them.
Yeah, and they don't really go over that first dragon too much either. Only 1.25 dragons
per game.
Average. It's not a whole lot of dragons.
No, it's definitely not. But to be fair, there's only been 1 5-dragon buck here in Europe this split. It's not really been a key to victory for the European teams. It's the towers and the gold that tends to weigh more on our squads.
Yeah, now the Wolves, they got the dragon, but not by grouping up, not using that Sivir ulti to their advantage.
Wait, that one is a bit of a miss. The Howling Gale doesn't connect either. Chain of Corruption must be the most missed skill shot. That doesn't connect either. Comedy of errors in the middle lane as nobody lands anything.
See, I played a solo queue game earlier today. Don't play too much solo queue, and I must say I sympathize with these fine gentlemen. I know how it feels to miss your skill shot and then have everybody watch you if you're a bad player. But life goes on. Miss skill shots on either side. Nobody dies. Just a little hurt in their pride. But these are sturdy gentlemen. They'll recover from this.
They will, and they will try again once more in the not too distant future. Jankos is making it very clear where his priority is this game. This is what, the 4th gank in the top lane.
Like the wise philosopher Jat Leesman once said, if you at first you don't succeed, try again, and looks like Jankos is trying again.
Jankos is in trouble. Youngbuck is going to be going down once again. Time Winder comes back. This time doesn't secure the kill. It's not over yet. It's down in the bottom lane. Boomerang Blade comes up. Mr. Rolls is trying to hop, to skip, to jump. He's going to get the Monsoon for safety. Time Winder for Peel. Steve decides to go back in. He bursts down Soren, but it's not enough. The barrel will send Soren home. Jankos picks up the kill, trading 1 for 1.
Yeah, both junglers instrumental in this game. 4 out of 5 kills for Jankos. 100% kill participation for Shook, so they got a tier 1 jungler and they're making it work, and this is why Rek'Sai and Gragas have been such staple picks so far. Now Shook's looking to assassinate Nukeduck. It's a little much to do on your own. But Roccat, they take a tower in the mid lane. Couple kills in advantage, just slowly getting this advantage on the Wolves, and honestly they should start grouping with the Sivir somewhere. Make a group play, because they're getting out-skirmished, especially in the top lane.
So advantages to Roccat, a tower, a bunch of kills, successful ganks. Roccat are looking like the team that every other LCS squad thought they were. And we'll need to see how Copenhagen Wolves can slowly start to recover. Let's also be fair, Copenhagen Wolves have had some difficulties this week and a substitution. So they're also trying to find some rhythm with their new 5th man.
But they're not changing it up. When Youngbuck gets ganked once and dies, twice and dies, 3 times and dies, I feel like he should start using his teleport to go into these other lanes, make a play, Every time we see Copenhagen Wolves make a play on the Kalista, and she barely survives because of the Janna reset. Imagine if they have a deep ward right there. Youngbuck can teleport on. He's Soren.
Well, let's see. Soren gets knocked back into the chain of corruption. Hail of Arrows comes down, a couple more shots, and Nukeduck gets the kill on the blue buff.
Deja vu.
Not gonna secure a kill. Jankos is really stepping up this game.
But the Wolves are falling for the same tricks over and over and over again. Soren gets hit, Youngbuck gets hit, and it's a repeat scenario, and they're not learning from their mistakes.
So let's see how Roccat can continue to press their advantage. 15 minutes gone, 2,000 gold lead, and Nukeduck and Vanda chunking down an inner mid turret. While Mr. Riles has been left uncontested in that bottom lane, he's built himself up a healthy CS lead. Everything's looking solid here for Roccat as they set themselves up for a strong mid game.
Roccat definitely poised to take more advantage of this map. Wonder what's next. Ideally, they should open up another tier 1 tower right now. That's what they want to get, but still pretty healthy. Go over on my screen on the bottom. However, bottom towers, half HP. Top tower, half HP. I lied, they're not healthy. Want to see Roccat put a couple of members on one of these side lanes, push out mid, rotate, put the pressure on, and secure these tier 1 towers. Stop going for kills unless they're attached to another tower.
So let's see if Copenhagen Wolves can bounce themselves back. They do have the ability to group with Sivir. Infinity Edge now picked up as well. A lot of peel and protection if they can make a decision, if they can move around the map. We've not seen teleport plays come in from either of these top laners yet. They've been content to just pick on Youngbuck and keep chopping down trees.
And Steve is definitely content scaling because Roccat right now, they have their biggest lead they've ever had in this split at the 15-16 minute mark. So definitely feeling happy. It's easier to play with a lead. Just gives you so much more opportunities, a lot more pressure on the map, and we've seen when you back the Wolves into a corner, they become quite predictable. Teams with decent shot calling will exploit that predictability and make that lead even larger.
And talking about that biggest gold lead, Crepo, when Roccat have played standard 2v2 lanes, which has been 5 of their 8 games, they're actually usually down 2,000 gold by 20 minutes. They've turned that around before 17, and Jankos has set his sights on this bottom lane tower. We saw how much damage has been secured. There's vision to play with.
Yeah, triple pink ward backed up with 3 green wards in front of it. Jankos is controlling the tempo of this game. They're aware of each other's positions, but they don't care. They just want that tower. Look at the mid lane as well. Nukeduck is keeping Soren down in the mid lane. He can roam at any point quicker than Soren can. I would like to see him do that.
So let's find out. Tower's going low. Jankos is hanging out on the side. We do see the engage from Unlimited. Shook is trying to come in. He has a teleport from Steve. He's pulled the trigger first, I believe. He's rocked up. We do see Youngbuck arriving. They're about the same time. That's a knock away from the explosive cast. Copenhagen Wolves are in retreat. Steve, Riles are chasing them down. Nukeduck may be able to solo Soren. He does! Now Shook is throwing out those Prey Seekers, but it's simply not enough. Roccat get 2 kills and a tower.
And again, Youngbuck TPs later than his opponent, even though Copenhagen Wolves were the ones under pressure.
So, congratulations to Roccat, extending that gold lead even further. They now get onto the Dragon and set themselves up for the most impressive early game we've seen from them all summer long.
And at the same time, the Wolves, not much has changed. Let's look at the gold real quick right here. Who has all those monies? Nukeduck in the lead, 7.1k. You see how he's passive. He's, yeah, full 1.2k ahead of his lane opponent. And they're playing a triple threat composition, which is big because they've confidently shown that they can trade evenly threat for threat, even if not stay alive, and then makes it so hard for the Wolves because all their damage just runs out eventually.
Now we'll see whether or not Wolves can position appropriately with the Sivir or not. Because the fact of the matter is, the Wolves are not doing a whole lot. They're playing a little closer to Roccat style that we've seen from the previous weeks. And for Steve, I think this is a good position to be in. Almost got that Lich Bane completed.
Yeah, let's talk items for a moment. You're a top lane Echo player. You want to learn Echo part 1, which is Steve, and then want to transition to Echo part 70 million, which is Toonie. Still the build you want to do. CDR, AP Mage Assassin, go in, and then ulti out.
Well, Young Buck is being focused down. Roccat have started this one. It's a 3v3 before Nuke has arrived. Chrono Break gets the burn down onto Young Buck as the phase dies, throws him onto Unlimited. We did see that chain of corruption thrown out from Nuke to add to the mix. 2 kills and another tower.
The best part about Chrono Break is that it resets tower aggro, so it facilitates dives, and if you fight for 2 or 3 seconds, then eventually you will go back to your ghost, but if you're in the same place, that's right where your ghost is, and you do massive AoE damage. Steve picks up another kill, and the Wolves, they all say hashtag keep howling, but they will need a lot of howling back into this game.
6,000 gold down, 4 towers down. Soren wants Rolls. Rolls has not left this lane.
He knows he's around,
Not
he just
needed
doesn't know where.
Is anything gonna happen?
You feel tension. It's palpable.
That's why I'm stopping.
Are you adding dramatic?
Yeah. Well, that was anticlimactic. I'm not gonna lie.
Shook taking down a Grump!
So I have to talk a little bit about Rockat's comp. With the amount of vision they have in this top lane, the obvious objective is going to be that inner turret. They seem to be prioritizing that.
Or just vision.
If at any point do they set their sights on Baron?
I mean, if you're a little hesitant in your approach and you don't have a clear tank that can survive the Baron long enough, which actually Roccat do in Gragas, what you can do is just ward up the enemy jungle and contest the neutral objectives, the buffs, and then to a second extent the Raptors and the Wolves. Smite away their Wolves, which gives removes the fact they can obviously not smite it themselves, so they don't get that little ghost going in the area. Smite away their Raptors, kill the Raptors, so they don't get that free Oracle buff to clear the vision, and then slowly push them in back into their base, and then they have to be afraid to face check everything, and then you can go for a Baron. Mistake a lot of teams make is they feel like the 2 wards around Baron are enough, but when you play against a team on purple side, they can easily sneak in a ward, stop your Baron attempt and kill the temple, so it's better to spend a little more time setting it up and executing it cleanly, rather than trying like 4 times in a row and failing.
Of course, with that Callista, you're always going to have that range safety to play with. Teleport will be available for Steve shortly.
Yep.
We do see Mr. Rolls land a couple of shots. Roccat has secured 7 Barons to the Wolves' 3. So a little bit more priority on that objective. They've got themselves a super solid lead, and it's Soren that's left to defend against Steve's split push.
So we're 21 minutes into the game. Copenhagen Wolves haven't grouped a single time with their Sivir, because Roccat is pressuring them in the side lane. Steve is always trying somebody there. We see Rawls moving to the top lane. He doesn't want to group in mid lane. He doesn't want to facilitate that group. Roccat want to go for the 1-3-1, warding between and make pickoffs.
Well, let's find out. Jankos does throw down the explosive cast. Freeze is most likely going to pick this kill up. We do see him continuing to chase with on the hunt. Jankos still alive. He gets a shield. Still alive! Monsoon will keep him alive for a few seconds longer. Enough to get the 280 carries of Roccat into the fight. They've now traded 1 for 1. We see Unlimited being chased away by this Rensax, and Shook was caught up. It looks like he's going to get run down as well. Copenhagen Wolves get 1, lose 2, and Unlimited will follow suit. Who's going to get the kill credit? Mr. Rolls
No one
not going to land the shot. Double flashes. They really want the triple, and they get it.
Yeah, very poor target prioritization from Copenhagen Wolves. They could have killed Rawls here.
Wow,
as we
look
see
at that
Soren.
damage.
Yeah.
Petrifying Gaze doesn't stun. Steve jumps in. The Archangels is going to keep at least Soren alive a few seconds longer. But Roccat now set up onto the tower.
Yeah, and the Copenhagen Wolves, they focus down on the tank. This allows Roccat to buy enough time for Rawls to just keep hitting people over and over. Nobody was hitting him. Twisted Advance did not connect on the Callista. Here's Super Shook coming back in.
And we do see Steve. He's going to chrono break to safety, split up the threat. Copenhagen Wolves looking for something and not going to find it. Roccat have now been able to regroup. The teleport and Void Rush was used for absolutely nothing. Young Buck's tree has been focused so heavily. 0-6-2.
Not looking too great. And 10 deaths are on 2 people on the Wolves. And that's big. Look at it. They find Jankos, which is alright. So why use your combo here if you're Alistar? Just get Rawless. Somebody just get Rawless. And look, Yankas doesn't have anything left. You can go to Rallis right now. Just focus him. Push to the vent. No, that's the wrong target. And then Rallis is still untouched, hitting people over and over again. And then once he gets that Ren execute, nobody's going to kill him anymore. Well, the Wolves had their window right there. I feel like they missed it a bit. They should have grouped earlier. You see how easy it is to catch people off guard when they get lulled into this false sense of security because of the gold lead. Which is why Sivir is such a potent pick. Definitely first pick worthy, in my opinion.
If you group, if you don't group and you don't use the power, you find yourself 10,000 gold down. And with all the wave clearing threat that Sivir has, no towers secured yet for the Copenhagen Wolves. Ooh,
Yeah.
Soren between a rock and a hard place. Luckily no vision. So Dragon number 2 will be secured here for Roccat.
Looking at Steve, he's now picking up some magic resistance, which means it's... What Echo wants to do is dive in and survive for a decent amount of time. As long as you can't stun lock him down, it's usually not wise enough to focus him, because he always has corner break, which makes it so hard to deal with a top lane Echo that has a mild lead on you, because you kind of want to focus him because he's hitting you, but you know it'll be wasted damage, wasted cooldowns if he presses his ultimate. Speaking of ultimates, he has freeze.
Well, let's see. They are going to try focus Steve. He's going to chrono break backwards and jumps onto Soren. Not going to be enough for the kill, but that was a whole lot of damage. The rest of Roccat did set themselves up towards Baron, but they didn't start it. And that's Steve getting caught out.
That's what you have to do. Group up, press R, and pray that you get a kill, and that Rocket's not ready for it. Steve overextending, disrespecting the Sivir ulti. He's getting closer to his second item, as well as there's a full QSS ahead. He has Runon's BT and QSS. He'll be hard to kill. Steve is hard to kill. Nuketook has massive range, so he's easy to kill if you get to him. But getting to him is rough. And then you have double disengage with Dragon's Barrel, with Janna. And this is why it's so hard to play against these. Yeah, as we say, keep saying it over and over and over again. Triple threat with disengage. If they get ahead, then it's hard to play against them. If you get ahead against them, then it's obviously easy to run them down because they all fall down so easily because they're so squishy. So TLDR, win your early game.
Win lane, win game.
Win lane, win game.
Not always the case for Roccat, but today they're proving they can buck the trend. And when they are facing a team that is also struggling, they at least seem to be playing very confidently. The toughest task lies ahead. Cracking the inhibitor turrets and clearing out the base. Little difficult against Cassio Server, but with the amount of poke and wave clear and even dive.
I think in true Roccat fashion, and to an extent also in true Copenhagen Wolves fashion, this game will slowly inch forward and eventually Roccat will pick it up, and then Copenhagen Wolves will crawl into their base, defend, hold on as long as they can. So eventually they run out of oxygen. They get suffocated by the pressure from Roccat. When are they going to get this Baron? It's not a matter of if, more a matter of when, in my opinion. So I want to see how they use their vision control. Their one upgraded oracles on Vander right here. That Talisman of Ascension to outrun the Sivir. They can just control the waves, control the vision, then move back to the Baron.
It's interesting to see the Talisman Ascension on both Janna and Alistar. Items gaining a lot of popularity in the last couple of weeks.
Very meta.
Since it has changed, gives you a little extra gold, longer range, a little more regen.
Mobility is
Stuff
key in a lot of these team compositions. Here we go, Shook gets poked out.
He's going to flash over the wall, gets away from the explosive cast, but flash used. So we know those flash knockups not going to be available for several minutes, meaning Nukeduck a little safer on that back line. One less threat for the next team fight.
They need to get rid of that pink ward right there. If they can get that out, push Copenhagen Wolves into their base and then disappear into the darkness without allowing them to put any more wards near the Baron pit, then they can facilitate that base. Here's a limited.
So let's see, Unlimited throws down the Unbreakable.
Another flash.
He too flashes away.
Next.
Roccat playing the waiting game effectively and continuing to get summoner spells.
Now they don't have to do it super cleanly routed because they have the Kalista Ren to execute the Baron.
So let's keep an eye on those stacks. Shook
He knows.
gonna move around. He knows full well this is happening, especially because he's just put a ward down. Teleports for both Steve and Youngbuck. Look at them in the bottom of your mini-map. 3,000 hit points on Baron. Here's the TP from Youngbuck. He'll arrive a second lower. Secure secured by the Ren, but this might get messy as Roccat are retreating. Chain of Corruption is going to try lock Copenhagen Wolves together as Jankos is taken out. Vanda and Rals, they're retreating, they're hopping backwards, but Youngbuck is staying alive and staying true. Freeze gets a kill, gets a double. Roccat lose 4 for the Baron, and I'm not sure that was worth.
Yeah, me neither, Trev. Yeah, Roccat start the Baron, but they give enough time for the Copenhagen Wolves to come up with a plan. They place a ward. The ward doesn't get swept, so you can still TP on it. In that fight, limited 500.
18th player to do so in Europe, Crepo.
Yeah, 500 assists. Great mark. This, yeah, makes the game interesting. We see the power here if the Wolves can group and distract Roccat a bit, and if they're not in a good position to make their disengage efficient. We see Jankos as well. Let's watch it again. Jankos watches HP. We're focusing. Shook goes for the steal, but now Youngbuck is actually first. And we see Unlimited going with the zone, 2-man combo, so that forces the flash from Rawless. And now Youngbuck's in the middle of them, so they have to run away, even though he flashed backwards. Okay. A little questionable flash here, but Freeze is alive and he's untouched, and then Unlimited comes in with the CC. A little questionable flash from Youngbuck there in my opinion, but it worked out, so hashtag worth. But the Wolves are still 7,000 gold down.
And this may be the first tower of the game. It will be the first tower of the game if Freeze can hit it. Decides to play safe instead. Rawls is going to defend. 30 minutes on the clock, and Copenhagen Wolves have yet to take an outer turret down. But that gold lead is now becoming slightly... Come on, Freeze. There we go. 30 minutes on the clock. Still 7,000 gold.
And Nuktuk is the only one with Baron Cleave's buff left, so if we want to keep him alive and pushing.
And we're on the steps of the Copenhagen Wolves base. Roccat trying to set themselves up. Throwing out some of that poke. Nuktuk will have those Baron-powered minions for at least another minute or so. Well, it seems like they want to
flank here from Youngbuck. No teleport. If you run straight at Roccat, it's going to be hard to get them because Jankos is disengaged and Monsoon is so easy to use if everybody's just charging at you. Stand a little bit behind your carries and then flash Monsoon in. Look at the tower crumble. We need a flank. Somebody needs to get to the side, threaten the flank from Roccat and force them back, or at least make their position a little more awkwardly. But nobody opts to do so.
Look at that tower getting chunked down. That Baron-empowered siege minion.
No flashes on Wolves. This is vital. If Roccat are tracking these, they know they have the safety to move up. Wolves become so predictable in their approach.
Well, we do see Unlimited trying to get in, has used the Ancient Coin on the Hunt popped as well. And they don't connect. Look at the damage from that piercing arrow. Nuktuk is melting the Copenhagen Wolves hit points bars.
The lack of flashes is really what's separating these fights from being good for the Wolves or bad for the Wolves, because Unlimited, you saw, he wanted to go in, but he knew if he tries to go for that combo, he will just eat a tornado, get Monsoon out, and fight resets and tower will go down. He's down to 30% right now.
That's going to be the tower secured. The base is cracked open. Roccat, look at that. Soren simply cannot take those hits. No flash either, so the Petrifying Gaze engage is not available. Unlimited's looking to get an assist on the board. We talked about it. He just broke 500. That's at 502. And we'll see whether or not he can get any more. Crepo, if he gets 18 more assists, he'll beat your record, buddy. 520.
Yeah, but, you know, some assists are just more valuable than others.
They would be.
In this meta game where everybody groups up, it's so easy to get assists.
Oh.
Back in my day,
you had to earn those assists.
I had to work hard for them.
So Roccat are working hard for every kill and assist they've earned this game.
Not like I played in a meta game where all we did was group up and fight, but forget about that one. Let's focus on this game, Trevor.
I don't remember those days. 40-minute games, do nothing for 20 and then play?
Beautiful strategy.
It was. It wasn't particularly effective from what I remember.
Yeah, man, we won a lot of games. At one point, before I dwelled in the deep darkness of obscurity.
That's not
continents.
That's not fair. That's not fair. You're not obscure in that top We do see Soren's caught out. Chain of corruption goes out. He manages to petrify Vander in position, but it's not going to be enough. Steve gets a kill as Unlimited, trying to hunt those assists. All he'll do is give his own life. And the Copenhagen Wolves lose 2 more on a tower. This is a trend that has happened for each of the previous towers. And it looks like Roccat will be setting themselves up for another inhibitor objective.
Yeah, Alistar Morghulis, you're behind. All cows must die. That's your fate. You go in, you tank as much as you can. Eventually, your team runs away, and you're the lone support. Stuck into 5 angry Roccat members, and they will kill you and take your inhibitor.
And they do. Second inhibitor down. Roccat again with a strong advantage. Gonna back off, spend some of their hard-earned gold. Every single member over 1,300 gold, 2,500 on Mr. Rolls. Remember, that was a first pick Kalista. That is 5-1. And he's showing he has mastered the champion in this team composition.
Yeah, and I like the builds coming out of Roccat as well, because they're running on 3 carries. They don't need to spec into like heavy damage. You see on both AD carries in the mid lane and the bot lane, we see a double Bloodthirster here for the Varus and the Kalista. And that makes it a lot easier to stay alive in these fights. And because they don't have to rely on just their damage to carry these fights, because they have a 3rd carry coming in the AP Echo in the top lane. They can spec a little more defensively, get that QSS, and then Vander, of course, his role is just keeping his carries alive. So all he buys is CDR, move speed, and then the Mikhail's Crucible for additional cleanse. So good itemization by Roccat. Obviously easy if you're ahead, because it makes them ever so more efficient.
The thing is, though, when you look at the gameplay, Roccat earned this lead through repeated ganks, actively pushing towers, efficiently grouping. And those are traits that we had not associated with this team in summer. And maybe even not in spring. We see Jankos is going to get caught out, but Soren's used his ultimate just for Jankos. Now the disruption from the explosive cask is 1 kill for Wolves, but what will it cost them? So far it's a top lane as Steve is going to go forward and Chrono Break backwards. Nukta gets himself a support as well.
Jankos is just so tanky. He can buy enough time even if he face checks. He traded that face check for Cassiopeia ultimate, which is massive, because in the scope of the team fight, that's 1 big key ultimate down for the Wolves, and they have to settle for a 1-for-2 trade, and they're looking at losing their 3rd inhibitor right here.
Desperation plays from the Copenhagen Wolves. They lose another tower. Freeze loses 30% of his hit points from 1 poke from Nukta. And Steve and the rest of Roccat secure an inhibitor. They're looking to go forward. Freeze will get rendered, but he stays alive. Might make it back to the steps. Spell shields up to stay alive a few seconds longer, and Rolls continues to throw out those hurricane-empowered auto attacks. Super minions in all 3 lanes. Double super minions for a little while. That mid inhibitor will respawn very soon, but 36 minutes. Roccat have got the makings of a strong victory.
A lot of free farm here for Copenhagen Wolves. Always look on the bright side of life. That life doesn't seem to last that long anymore, as Rocket's setting up for another Baron.
Oh, Baron number 2. I feel this one's not going to cost them 4 lives. I can still be proven wrong. Copenhagen Wolves move forward before realizing they had too many minions to deal with. And
that's one of the changes I like so much about the new Baron. It's so... gives you so much satisfaction when you base in double speed, only 4 seconds to get to the base, because it just rewards people to, okay, take the Baron, then base, buy your items all together. Not one guy going like, hey guys, I need 200 gold for my needlessly large rock. No, just I'll get the base, get that mini home guard, start pushing again, and close out the game, the damn game.
So there we go, Roccat barreling down this middle lane. Very, very impressed with their decision making. Very impressed with how they've handled themselves in at least this particular matchup.
I'll say medium impressed. But definitely an improvement.
That's for sure.
They capitalize on the mistakes that the Wolves left them. And I think that's definitely a good change for Jankos in particular, because he's been getting gradually more active.
Let's find out. Look at the disengage from that piercing arrow.
Yeah, no flank.
Talisman, and also Flash is not available for Copenhagen Wolves once again.
Yeah, if you don't flank, Janna will just make your life so miserable with those tornadoes. Those monsoons. It's so hard to flank when you're down 3 hits. Soren!
He gets caught out. Petrifying Gaze connects with nobody as Mr. Rolls gets himself another. Parallel convergence stuns up the Copenhagen Wolves, and Freeze gets frozen out of this game. Unlimited will get dropped as the super minions are on the Nexus turret. Young Buck and Shook are running for their lives. Rocket set their sights on the Nexus turrets, take them down.